Good evening, everybody. I'm Mike Patrick. I'm the managing editor of the Coeur d'Alene Press. I'm also the ringleader of this shindig tonight. I'd like to start off by thanking some extraordinary people: the City of Coeur d'Alene, the library staff, and particularly Renata McLeod, Jeff Crow, and the CdA-TV team for putting on this show. I'm also going to remind everybody that this is being streamed live on the city's Facebook page. So I'm going to ask you all to be polite. Let's be civilians tonight. I want to introduce my co-conspirators, the press team that's helping out tonight. The lovely lady right up front, I can say that because I know her very well. The timekeeper is columnist Cholet Patrick. The inquisitors are assistant managing editor Andy Obermiller and reporter Devin Weeks. Reporter Craig Northrup and photographer Lauren Benoit are both hiding over there. They're covering the meeting tonight. And now I want to take just a minute and explain the rules of engagement. We'll bring out the candidates in three groups. The first group, obviously, is up here already. One for each of the city council seats that's being contested. Each person will have 2 minutes for opening remarks and 2 minutes for closing remarks. In between, Andy and Devin will pepper them with really difficult questions. Nobody got the questions in advance. The candidates are not allowed to have gadgets with them to communicate with anybody else. The candidates who aren't up here right now are sequestered away in a sweat chamber as if they need that. Out of consideration for all the candidates, we ask members of the audience to remain quiet, holding your applause until the end of each segment. There is one exception. Laughing at the moderator's lame jokes is not only allowed but appreciated. Okay, let's get the show on the road. Christy Wood and Elaine Price are seeking seat 1. Christy, we're going to start with you. You've got 2 minutes for opening remarks, please.
Thank you to the Coeur d'Alene Press and certainly Coeur d'Alene TV for this forum. I'm excited to be running for City Council. I care deeply about our community, and I intend to work hard on behalf of our citizens. I've spent the majority of my adult life in public service in one form or another. I served my country in the United States Air Force as a law enforcement specialist, and I spent 26 years with the City of Coeur d'Alene as a police officer, retiring as a detective sergeant in 2015. I know this city very well. I've worked in all the neighborhoods, solving crimes and issues for citizens. I was the first school resource officer at Lake City High School, in which I worked hard to keep our children safe. I spent years working on city budgets and policies. In my tenure, I was also the spokesperson for the police department and in charge of the Neighborhood Watch program. Sometimes there's a steep learning curve in an elected position. I certainly felt that way when I was first elected to the Coeur d'Alene School Board. In my 8 years of service there, I did gain a good grasp of the issues associated with education, massive growth, how to manage public budgets, approve policy, and learn state and federal laws that pertain to governance. During this time, I also ran for election to the North Idaho College Board of Trustees, and I'm currently in my 15th year with the college, focused on the same things: education, growth, public budget, policies, and governance. I can hit the ground running. I have a good, solid base of knowledge on the operations of the city. I've always enjoyed being involved in my community. For the past 12 years, I've served the law enforcement position on the Kootenai County Task Force Board of Human Relations. I'm in my second term as a City Park and Recreation Commissioner. Now that I'm retired, I do have plenty of time to continue to serve the community, and it's my intention to tackle the pressing issues of growth, public safety, budget management, and preservation of our parks with my full attention.
Thank you, Christy. Elaine, 2 minutes, please.
Hi, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I appreciate being able to participate in this forum. I am a grassroots kind of person. I have worked in retail for the last 18 and a half years. Recently, leaving that position so that I could finish my degree and get an associate's degree in accounting. My husband and I own our own business downtown here on Sherman. I have a passion for this city. I just realized recently that I have spent more time in the city of Coeur d'Alene than the town that I was born and raised in. So Coeur d'Alene is my home. And I look at Coeur d'Alene as having opportunities. And I want to give a fresh voice to finding solutions to those opportunities. I don't have a political background, but I learned quickly. And I feel that if I have a passion for the city and I could sit on the sidelines and just complain about what's going on in the city, but I decided to throw my hat in the ring to see if I could make a difference. And I'm trying to be a voice that nobody else has heard already. I'm trying to be a representative of all the citizens in Coeur d'Alene. I'm a middle-class citizen, and I feel like we haven't had much of a voice on the city council. And so that's what I want to do, is I want to have the citizens of Coeur d'Alene say, she is there fighting for me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we get to the questions. Andy, I'm going to have you go first, please.
Thanks, Mike. On average, Coeur d'Alene city employees are paid better than their peers elsewhere in Idaho. That's great for the employees. Is it also great for the taxpayers? Please explain your answer. This is for Ms. Wood first, please.
Thank you. Well, I certainly was one of those city employees, so it's a very personal subject. And I also participated often as a member of the police association with the collective bargaining and binding arbitration process. I can tell you that in the minds of the employees and certainly the city council, what I've experienced is that Coeur d'Alene doesn't have to be the highest paid in the state, but they should certainly be enough to keep our people from leaving. We never wanted to be a training ground, and you've seen other agencies experience that. Sadly, the Sheriff's Department, I don't think they're paid enough. And what happens is our citizens suffer for that because they don't stay. They leave and they go over to Spokane. So it's really important that they don't have to be the highest paid, but certainly pay them appropriately so they can afford to live in this community and take care of all the needs of the city. Your city employees are your neighbors and your friends, and they care about the city just as much as you do.
The same question for you, Elaine. Coeur d'Alene city employees are on average paid better than their peers anywhere else in Idaho. That's great for employees. Is it also good for taxpayers? Please explain your answer.
I do feel it's good for the taxpayers because you do get qualified employees as well as employees who are willing to stay and not seek jobs elsewhere. When you look at budget-wise, of course, you've got to think about that as well, but there's, if you don't have qualified and good employees, then the city is going to suffer. And whether it's losing our leaf pickup or whether it's not having the most qualified police force, the citizens do feel it. So I do really feel that it is important that we pay our employees well and retain them, like Christy said.
Great. Devin, your turn.
All right, Elaine, this one is for you. And the next one will be for Christy. Same question. There's some momentum to revitalize East Sherman. Should that be a city priority? And if so, what's the best way to do it? Through urban renewal, private investment, or some other way?
I think it's great that the city is looking at renewing different portions of the city. I feel that it should be done by private citizens, private businesses. I don't feel that the city should be in the business of running businesses or anything on that aspect. I think that if taxpayer money is being spent, that the taxpayers should be electing the people who is spending the taxpayers' money. So in that aspect, I'm not in favor of urban renewal because I don't feel that there's enough transparency for the citizens to know where their money's being spent and how it's being spent. I do think it's a great idea that we're looking at our different areas in our city, that we're reviving them and, possibly putting new businesses in areas that lack it now. But I really feel that it should be done on a private sector.
Thank you, Elaine. Okay, Christy, same question. There's some momentum to revitalize East Sherman. Should that be a city priority? And if so, what's the best way to do it? Through urban renewal, private investment, or some other way?
Well, I think a combination of all of the above. Certainly the city has a role. There is a feeling sometimes that urban renewal is not transparent, but I have certainly worked with a number of them on projects that have been very successful in this city. So I wouldn't rule out urban renewal. I think it needs a lot of oversight because there is the possibility for projects not going the way that they should go. We don't want favoritism on the urban renewal. But I can tell you the education corridor has been a huge success. Riverstone, a huge success. There's the projects that come out of the urban renewal have been very well done, but the oversight needs to be there. And I think that enough citizens have said that East Sherman revitalization matters to them. So there isn't any reason why it couldn't be a combination of the city involvement, urban renewal to some degree, and then the private entity. And I think that is something we should focus on in the city comp plan, most definitely.
Great, thank you. All right, Andy, back to you.
Ms. Wood, this question will also be for you. It's a long one. It'll give you a chance to catch your breath. On June 5th, 2013, Coeur d'Alene became Idaho's 5th city to adopt a non-discrimination ordinance. The ordinance protects lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people from discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodation. If you had been on the council that night, how would you have voted and why?
Well, I was here that night. I am the current president of the Kootenai County Task Force on Human Relations, and we focus on human rights, civil rights, and dignity for all. And we also work very hard on behalf of victims that have been subjected to discrimination. It was our group that came forward and asked the council to adopt the anti-discrimination ordinance, and I really, really hope that my opponent believes in it as much as I do. I don't think human rights is a liberal or conservative issue. I think it's a moral issue. And so we work very hard to protect people so they all feel safe in the city of Coeur d'Alene. I would have voted yes. I encouraged the council that night to vote yes, and I testified a very long time. And I'm very proud of the city of Coeur d'Alene for putting those protections in place for vulnerable people. I'm very proud of the task force for continuing to work on the behalf of people that are vulnerable in the population.
Ms. Price, the same question to you. On June 5th, 2013, Coeur d'Alene became Idaho's 5th city to adopt a non-discrimination ordinance which protects lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people from discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodation. If you had been on the council that night, how would you have voted and why?
I agree that everybody should be treated equal, no matter how they live. I think that it should be just standard practice. I don't think that the government should have to tell us to treat people a certain way. It should be a human reaction to treat people a certain way. And so I do believe that less government is the best government, and that we shouldn't have to be ordinanced into being kind and being nice to people. I would have voted for it because it would have been the right thing to do. I just wish that we hadn't have to get to that point where we have to put an ordinance in place in order for people to be treated right.
Thank you both. Okay, Devin, you have the last question for this section.
Okay, and this one's for you again, Elaine. What specific ideas do you have or support to help Coeur d'Alene deal with the challenges of growth?
I really feel that we need to have a complete and solid comprehensive plan in place in order to deal with growth. One of the challenges that I've seen is that we don't have a clear plan in place for the developers, and so they feel confident to do what they want to do versus necessarily what's right for the community. I think that if we give them clear understanding of what direction we want to see the city go, what growth we want to see, make sure that they understand that we care about all of our citizens and that everybody's property rights is important, not just the one person's property rights, that they have owners of property around them, that their property rights are just as important as the developer's properties rights. One thing that I've seen is that there seems to be a lot more developers from outside of Coeur d'Alene that are developing in the city, and I remember developers, they used to be the neighbors of, the property owners, so they thought about that stuff a little bit more. So I think that we as a city need to step in there and help them remember that they have people around them as well.
Thank you. All right, Christy, same question for you. What specific ideas do you have or support to help Coeur d'Alene deal with the challenges of growth?
Well, I think all the candidates are seeing the same things and hearing the same things from friends and neighbors, and growth is the most pressing issue. We're very fortunate coming into this as candidates that the city's already working on a comprehensive plan, but we all need to make sure we take all the input, we attend all of those meetings, and we gather everyone's thoughts. Part of the growth issue is affordable housing. That's one. We've heard people talk about that quite a bit. And so what does that mean when you talk about neighborhoods like Elaine has? Should we look at accessory dwelling units? Should we look at cottage homes, pocket housing that could lower the cost for first-time homeowners? Those are all things that are possible ideas that I would look at specifically. I know there's a lot of strong ideas about preserving the character of our current neighborhoods. I think we need to listen to that. Once they're gone, they're gone. I spent many years in the police department putting together neighborhood watch programs. Quality of life issues is the biggest deal. The barking dogs, the weeds that grow on the lawns, the cars on the lawns, the party houses, nobody wants that. We need to be good neighbors. With growth comes more of those issues. And so we need to focus on the plan and the public safety aspect of it.
Thank you both. All right, it's time for closing remarks. And Elaine, we're going to go with you first, and then Christy. 2 minutes, please.
Again, I appreciate everybody coming here. I appreciate having this opportunity. I'm not a polished politician. I'm just a middle-class person who wants to represent all of Coeur d'Alene and try to bring some fresh ideas to the City Council and to the problem solving that we're going to face in our city. I don't have all the answers, and I'm willing to admit I don't have all the answers. But I'm also willing to admit that I'll work hard to find solutions. I'll listen to everybody, and I will do my best to be a representative of all the citizens in Coeur d'Alene. Workforce housing is something that's near and dear to my heart. I have 2 boys who can't even afford to find a house in the city that they were born and raised in. And to me, that is part of the reason why I want to be part of this, is because I want to be a representative of all the people like that. So I appreciate everybody giving me the opportunity to be here and the opportunity to run and possibly represent on the City Council in Coeur d'Alene.
Thank you. Christy?
I'm a person of pretty high energy. I've served a lot of years in volunteer positions, and I really enjoy it. As a law enforcement officer, I relied heavily on my moral character and my integrity. I don't go along to get along. I'm not a quiet individual, and I don't nod my head in agreement to take the easy road. I plan on being very engaged as a council member, and I come prepared to meetings. I get constituent feedback in all of my decision-making. I think the city has many pressing issues, certainly around growth, and it leads to everything else. I intend to roll up my sleeves, and I want to work with this current council addressing those issues. I have years of experience in growth management with the school district, with the college, and with the police department. I don't consider myself a career politician. I consider myself a career volunteer. I've enjoyed it. I love being involved in the community, and I've learned a lot along the way. I think that will be very helpful. I'm a strong believer in common sense decision-making around planning and zoning, so I'm especially glad to see our current council working on the plan that will guide our city in our housing, our roads, our commercial, our parks, and much, much more. I'm incredibly grateful for the endorsement of Ron Ettinger, who did 50 years here. He's been a leader for me. I've worked with him my entire career. I'm also very grateful for the endorsement from the employees of the police and fire unions. They know me, they know what kind of a worker I am, so it was very special to get that from them. I intend to spend every moment, now that I'm retired, focused on city business. So I don't feel like it's too much. I'm used to taking on a lot of jobs at once, and I would ask you for your vote on November 5th.
Thank you both. Let's give both of these candidates a round of applause. All right, while we're making the switch to seat 3, I have a very important announcement. Question: what is a mummy's favorite kind of music? Rap. Why do demons and ghouls hang out together? Silly. Demons are a ghoul's best friend.
You should be fired for those.
I should not just be fired, I should be tarred and feathered. Okay, who knows when the election is? Does anybody not know? It is November 5th. And much to your relief, joke time is almost over. But I have more. Okay, we all set? Now it's time to meet the candidates for seat 3, Michael Pereira and Dan Gukin. Dan, why don't you get us started with your 2-minute opening remarks, please.
Thank you, Mike. I am Dan Gukin, City Councilman, Seat 3. In 2002, I moved into the city of Coeur d'Alene from the county. I took residence in the Fort Ground neighborhood, and I still live there in the same house with 2 of my 4 sons. I work out of my home. I am an author. I am founder of the For Dummies series of books. I still do that, and I also do online training for LinkedIn Learning specifically. When I first ran for office, I promised to be a fiscal hawk and to ask the tough questions, and I've kept those promises. I don't vote for property tax increases as I believe the city does well financially and there's always something to cut in the budget. Last year, my budget cuts of over $500,000 were passed by council, and the result you saw was a 0% property tax increase. This year, my budget cuts were not accepted, and I was the only member of council to vote against the 3% property tax increase, which you will see on your November tax bill after the election. During my tenure, I strive to add accountability, oversight, and transparency to the public process. I'm very involved. I visit department heads. I talk with workers. I try to understand how to help them do their jobs so that they can provide you with outstanding services. My passion is to protect and preserve established neighborhoods. We can accommodate growth in this city without having to sacrifice the character and charm that we love about Coeur d'Alene. I favor creating historical neighborhood zones to provide compatibility and to fight density in the older parts of town. Now, there's more I have to say, but time is short, so I'm going to look forward to your questions and say thank you.
Great, thank you, Dan. Michael, 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you to the Coeur d'Alene Press for putting this on and the voters for being here and watching this live on TV. And thank you, Dan, for being up here today. Appreciate it. My name is Michael Pereira, and I'm excited and humbled to be running for Coeur d'Alene City Council Seat 3. I'm a longtime Coeur d'Alene resident, a family man, a businessman, and a community-minded individual. I graduated from Lake City High School, NIC, and the University of Idaho. Oops, lost place. I've been married to my beautiful wife for 10 years, and this is where we have chosen to raise our 4 beautiful children. I have a vast professional background as a former and current business owner in the fields of construction, consulting, and engineering. I am well-versed in human resources, employees, budgets, and what it takes to run a successful business and lead. I entered this race because I want to serve the people in our city. I pride myself on being fiscally conservative and have been involved in the community for many years, creating many strong connections and relationships. I believe the community involvement is very important, and giving back is a priority for me. I am a past president of the Coeur Group, past president of Leadership Coeur d'Alene, current board member of CdA 2030, current design review commissioner at the city of Coeur d'Alene, former board member at IDFY, a member of the Impact Club, among many others. I am an analytical thinker who will look at all sides of the equation and listen to all sides of the issues in order to make the best informed decisions for the future of Coeur d'Alene. I believe my collaborative mindset, passion for the people of Coeur d'Alene, and forward-thinking solutions will provide a refreshing change to the City Council. Thank you, and I look forward to the rest of our conversation tonight.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, let's get to the questions. Devin, you're batting lead off in this segment.
First question, Michael, you will start. The mayor and city council dealt with a downtown parking controversy this summer when a number of citizens called for free parking, particularly near the parks. What do you think about the way it was resolved, and how would you have liked it to be handled?
Thank you. So I believe if I was on the city council, I would have good working relationships with everybody on there, and we would have used my bridges and better ways of coming up with solutions before we even got to that point. I don't think we would have taken away the 2-hour parking. I think we would have figured out a better solution. And I think that takes being able to work with all the people on the council and have a good working relationship. And the final way it came out, I mean, it's better than it was. You know, could there be some other options? Possibly.
Okay, Dan, same question. The mayor and city council dealt with a downtown parking controversy this summer when a number of citizens called for free parking, particularly near the parks. What do you think about the way it was resolved, and how would you have liked it to be handled?
Well, I was very happy that the mayor stepped up to address the concerns of the citizens, because people were upset. I was there at that meeting, and I voted against those fee increases, primarily for parking. The thing that annoyed me more than taking away the 2-hour parking was that they were going to charge to park here at City Hall. And I don't think anyone should have to pay to go to a public meeting or to pay their utility bill. And then when this blossomed, and I remember I posted a video about that today on my website, and I remember after the meeting saying to a fellow councilman, this is going to be a big political issue. This really is. I did not know it would morph into what it did with the upset about the 2-hour free parking being taken away. I think we can bring it back. I mean, the intermediate step, I support that, and I'll support that as we work toward a parking pass, which is the solution, and that's good. What would be better would be next term to make a motion to say, let's bring back 2-hour. Let's look at it. Let's look at what the funding needs are, and let's take an example of what we're funding, why we need to raise the money. Can we proactively give back 2 hours free and then charge more for the other hours? If the argument is that it's people from Spokane, people from out of town who are parking here who aren't paying for our parks, and they stay longer than 2 hours, maybe we charge the third hour more. Maybe that's the way we can do it. I would be in favor of bringing back 2-hour free parking because the people asked for it.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, Andy?
Mr. Gookin, there's some momentum to revitalize East Sherman. Should that be a city priority, and if so, what's the best way to do it? Through urban renewal, private investment, or some other way?
Well, I think the best way for revitalization to happen to an area is for government to get out of the way as much as possible and to allow the organic growth that would take place to take place. The city is paying attention to East Sherman after the longest time for ignoring it, and now it's practically become an obsession. And I think it's time that we just do something. The East Sherman plan was promised to me to be available in August, and it wasn't. It was promised that it would be available before the end of the year. The end of the year is coming. I would like to see a plan so that we can do things other than, randomly buying 2 motels with no plan at all for the motels, and say, what is it we're going to really be doing out here? I don't want to use urban renewal unless they can demonstrate somehow that tool will be effective. Organically, it would be great to have some anchor come out there and create a neighborhood, create a reason to go out there. I mean, something like parking it on Sherman, but every day. And I'm hoping we're going toward that goal. When we see the plan, we'll know. So right now, we're just waiting on the plan, and I know it's coming.
Mr. Pereira, the same question for you. There's momentum to revitalize East Sherman. Should that be a priority, and if so, what's the best way to fund it? Through urban renewal, private investment, or some other way?
Thank you. Yeah, that's been going on for quite some time, and if you look back in history, East Sherman was bustling, and now today it's not bustling from end to end. So it's been a topic of conversation for a long time. I believe the private industry is the best way to go if we can make that happen. If private industry can come in and make it bustle from end to end, I think that's the best way to go. I think urban renewal is a tool in the toolbox, and if done right, it can be a good thing. But if we can get it to be done by the private industry, I think that would be a better way to go.
Okay, thank you. Devin?
Okay, Michael again. How is the City Council doing in meeting the challenges of growth, and what specifically would you bring to the table in that ongoing quest?
So growth is a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, we long time ago, people were hoping for growth and economic recovery and things to come to town, and now they have. And the area has been discovered, and we can't stop growth completely. That has a ripple effect in our economy, that the people and jobs and things going on. So we need to plan carefully, but we need to also leave some room for changes and things that come in the area. The comp plan is currently being worked on here at the city. That hasn't been done since 2007. The county's working on their comp plan. The cities around us are working on their comp plans. And so, everybody needs to collaborate and work together and try and plan growth as much as you can while leaving some room for a mix of high density, a mix of urban sprawl, a mix of different things. We can't just have all high density. We can't have all urban sprawl. So we need to have a good mix of everything and make sure that in that growth we need to work on affordable and obtainable housing. make sure that young families can still stay here and live here and afford to work here. And then the rental market as well. People need to be able to afford to live here in general.
Dan, same question. How is the City Council doing in meeting the challenges of growth? And what specifically would you bring to the table in that ongoing quest?
Thank you. When you most experience growth is going to be in traffic. And the problem we have with traffic right now is that we have great plans for traffic. I'm a board member of the KMPO, which is the Kootenai Master Planning Organization, which deals with traffic. We have the plans. We don't have the funding. That's a legislative issue. The legislature needs to increase the gas tax. That would help a lot with getting those plans in place so that we could deal with the traffic. But when it comes to the actual issue of growth, what I'm hearing from the public is that it's density. Density is a bigger issue for them. Where are we going to put in the high density in the city to accommodate people who are coming in here? I don't want to see it in an established neighborhood. It destroys the neighborhood. I want to see us in the comp plan figure out where to put the density so that it can handle it, the infrastructure can handle it. And there are places in the city that will do that. And there's more that I can say on the whole topic of growth and density. It's like Michael said, the comp plan is part of that. If you are concerned about protecting your neighborhood, which I'm very concerned about, definitely show up to Envision CDA and let your voice be heard about where to put this density and this growth. The council, unfortunately, tends to just approve these zone changes and add these densities because the existing comp plan is very weak on that. So I'm hoping the new comp plan is stronger about where we put the density.
Thank you. Okay, Andy?
One more, Mr. Gookin. Coeur d'Alene City employees, on average, are paid better than their peers elsewhere in Idaho. That's great news for the employees. Is it also great for the taxpayers? Please explain.
Well, the goal of having a public employee is to provide services to the public, and I believe we provide top quality services. There's as far as I know, there's never been an issue that anyone has contacted me on council because the sewer doesn't work or the water doesn't work. We are on it. I mean, the city is on keeping those things up to date and maintained. Most of our employees are long-lived, which is a credit to the city. They've been here for years, and they've actually topped out of the pay scale. So the pay increases that people are talking about, they don't get them. They get a COLA. That's pretty much it. And that's pretty standard in most government, except for the county, of course. But that's pretty standard. So we don't keep giving them more and more money all the time. They've just been around a long time and they've climbed that pay scale. So when they start, the pay rate, and so you're comparing current salaries to starting salaries. The starting salaries are pretty in line with what you get paid out in the real world. It's just that they've been here and they've climbed that ladder, the scale goes up, but they provide a lot of quality service. And there's a lot of them actually recently who have left the city because they are making more money out there in the real world.
Mr. Pereira will ask you the same question. Coeur d'Alene City employees are on average paid better than their peers elsewhere in Idaho. While that is great for the employees, is it good for taxpayers? Please explain.
Thank you. I mean, as long as we're finding every efficiency in the city and we're doing quality things and giving quality service, I mean, the pay seems like it would be in order. Like they're saying, they could retire eventually and maybe things will get a little bit cheaper as new people come in. But we need to be constantly looking for efficiencies and making sure the quality of service is good to our citizens.
Okay, we're actually, we have a wee bit of extra time, so I'm going to give each of you a minute. Dan, is there anything Michael has said tonight that you disagree strongly with? And then Michael, I'm going to flip it back the other way.
No.
Okay. Michael?
No, nothing off the top of my head. No major things at the moment.
Good time waster, Mike.
Okay. All right, time for closing remarks. Michael, you're up first.
That was fast. Thank you again to the Coeur d'Alene Press and the voters for watching and Dan's willingness to be involved in this. We are at a critical time in our community with growth and changes. Strategic decisions, plans need to be made for our community well into the future. My background and experience and strong relationships that I've created over the years will allow me to make the right decisions for the long-term viability of our community. I don't sit before you pretending to have all the answers to all the issues facing Coeur d'Alene, but I know together we can solve them. We have the opportunity to shape our community into a thriving, prosperous community for our kids and future generations. But we need to think outside the box, have a forward-thinking vision, come up with new innovative ideas, and not just the same old way of fixing things. I will be a bridge builder between the council and the community. I will represent all of Coeur d'Alene, listen to all sides, and strive to make the best informed decisions for our future. In closing, I want to thank you again for taking the time to be informed and watching this. When elected, I will always remember who I work for, the voters of Coeur d'Alene. I humbly and respectfully ask for your vote on November 5th, Michael Pereira for Coeur d'Alene City Council, Seat 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Dan?
Thank you, Mike. For the past 2 years, it's been my honor to serve you. My reputation is that I'm approachable. I respond quickly to emails and phone calls, and I feel I represent all citizens fairly. Specifically, I'm most proud to represent those who feel they've been shut out of the process. For example, the people who were upset when the city removed the 2-hour free parking at McEwen. Well, I'd like to bring it back, and bring it back for people like the single mother who tearfully addressed council. I'm happy to stand up and speak for her. With the downtown urban renewal district closing, we must be smart about what we do with that increased revenue. Planning must be done now to account for increases in public safety personnel, which comes with growth, streets and other services, while offsetting future tax increases. Beyond that, I see 3 major issues that face our city. Immediately, we must recognize that there's more to Coeur d'Alene than Sherman Avenue. We must do more for our town, and not just for those who live south of the freeway. Short term, we must manage the density that comes with growth to protect the historic charm of Coeur d'Alene. Twice, I have asked council to discuss height restrictions downtown. Both times, my motion failed to receive a second. Long term, we must recognize that the people who work here can't afford to live here. Wouldn't it be great if we retooled urban renewal to attract jobs to this area, as has been done elsewhere in Idaho? Please visit my website at danguken.com. You can view videos there and read more about how I plan on addressing these issues. Let's move forward in a positive direction for everyone who lives here. Please vote Dan Guken, Seat 3, on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give both of these guys a hand.
Thank you.
Okay, so what's the will of the body tonight? More Halloween jokes or no? Dick Gardner is giving me a thumbs down. My wife is giving me the look. Okay, so why did the ghost go into the bar? For the booze. Why did the game warden arrest the ghost? Because he didn't have a haunting license. What happens when a ghost gets lost in the fog? And by the way, if you want to stand up for a minute and stretch, this is a good time to do it. What happens when a ghost gets lost in the fog? He is missed. They are so happy to see you. I told you I would make you all look good. Okay, one more. Why did the vampire read the Coeur d'Alene Press?
Okay.
Because he heard it had great circulation. Okay. Devin, you really think these are funny. Devin is in charge of the ghastly groaners in the Coeur d'Alene Press. She's got tears rolling down her cheek. And see me about a raise after this forum. Okay, we're ready for the final segment tonight. These are 3 of the 4 candidates seeking seat 5. We have Dan English, Lacie Moen, and Tom Morgan. Dan, let's start with you. 2 minutes for opening remarks, please.
Sure. My name is Dan English. I was born and raised in Coeur d'Alene, and I'm running for my second term on the Coeur d'Alene City Council. I've earned a degree in criminal justice administration and counseling psychology, and have been a licensed professional counselor for about 30 years. We raised 4 children in Coeur d'Alene who all attended public school here. 2 of our children are now veterans who served in the Navy and Army for almost 25 years between them. My career has been in people-centered leadership positions, which included local nonprofits such as Anchor House, Youth for Christ, CASA, and Habitat for Humanity. I have other elected experience as county clerk and on the Coeur d'Alene School Board. I recently retired as a director of the Area Agency on Aging, a program at North Idaho College. I've used my skills and experience in governmental budgeting, human resource, and policy making to understand and serve the people of Coeur d'Alene. My approach is to carefully study the issue, do the homework, listen to the concern of our citizens, and then make thoughtful decisions that take into account the best interests of all involved. It is an ongoing balance, a balance of public and private good. We have several very significant and exciting opportunities ahead of us over the next few years, including the final planning and initial work on the Atlas Water site, improvements in Midtown, and continuing focus on East Sherman, the winding down of the Lakes Urban Renewal District, and possible new health corridor district. And perhaps the most significant of all, the complete updated revision to our next comp plan. I have a long record of helping to make good things happen in our community and would welcome the chance to continue my work on the Coeur d'Alene City Council. I ask for your vote on November 5th, or better yet, vote early. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Tom, we're going to go to you, and then Lacie.
My name is Tom Morgan. I'm also a native of Coeur d'Alene in North Idaho. Running for council because I'm just a concerned citizen. Things have changed so much. You know, I'm 51 years old, and quite frankly, I wasn't paying much attention for the first 25 years. You know, but the last 25, when you start having kids and raising children, you start paying more attention to what's going on in your community. I'm concerned right now for several things, and as I talk to people in the community, I share a lot of the same concerns. Growth is an issue, and affordable housing is an issue, and you know, I really want to have a voice in how those things come together in Coeur d'Alene. This is my first time ever running for, even attempting something like this. So bear with me as I learn. But anyway, I love this town, lived here all my life, and would just really like the opportunity to serve and help the people in the community live the best life that's possible here in Coeur d'Alene. Thank you.
Tom, thank you. Lacie?
Hi, I'm Lacie Moen. First, I'd like to say thank you guys all for being here today. I know that we all have busy lives and busy schedules, and the fact that you've taken the time to be here right now, it means that you love Coeur d'Alene like I love Coeur d'Alene. And for the last 26 years that I've been here, my roots grow deep, and I'm not going anywhere. This is a town that I want to spend the rest of my life in, and I want my daughter to be here and be able to flourish. Over the last 8 years, I've owned a business in Coeur d'Alene, and during that business, I've gotten to see a lot of incredible humans. I've seen over 12,000 people in my chair, and I've gotten to hear real conversations from people that live in this community and love this town. During that 8 years, I have been awarded several awards. First, top 12 women in business for Spokane Coeur d'Alene, top 30 under 40 for the Kootenai County Young Professionals, top 10 Instagram influencers for the Northwest, and the list goes on. I've been nationally published with my work, and I'm also a nationally published author. All of those have been very, very it's been an amazing honor to have that kind of recognition. But you know the one thing that I'm most proud about? It's being a mom and watching my daughter grow up in this community. And I want to see her be able to be here for her entire life and her children's lives. And I want her to love it like I love it. I don't want to turn into a town that is our neighbor to the west. I want us to thrive, and I think that it's time to bring in new energy and new life and transparency and authenticity and bring in a new sense of perspective that has been missing in the City Council. So thank you very much for being here. I appreciate you all.
Right, thank you. Devin, take it away.
Thank you. All right, Lacie, you are up first.
Awesome.
On June 5th, 2013, Coeur d'Alene became Idaho's 5th city to adopt a non-discrimination ordinance. The ordinance protects lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transgender people from discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodation. If you had been on the council that night, how would you have voted and why?
Oh, I would have voted yes for all of that. I think that one of the beautiful things about this town is that I think it's time that we lead with love. And I think that it's time that we put our differences aside and work together as a team and be able to just see this town be everything that we try to show the world, that Coeur d'Alene is definitely a place where people are treated equally and that everybody has the same opportunities as everybody else. So I would definitely second that.
Okay, Tom, same question. On June 5th, 2013, Coeur d'Alene became Idaho's 5th city to adopt a non-discrimination ordinance. The ordinance protects lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transgender people from discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodation. If you had been on the council that night, how would you have voted and why?
No one should ever be discriminated against for any reason. So I would have been fully in support of that. Yeah, there's no reason to discriminate against anybody. Coeur d'Alene is in my lifetime here, we've seen some discrimination, and it was a very small group, and it is absolutely not what Coeur d'Alene is about or has ever been about. So, fantastic. I applaud that. 5th city, again, I would have supported that 100%.
Thank you. Okay, Dan, same question for you. On June 5th, 2013, Coeur d'Alene became Idaho's 5th city to adopt a non-discrimination ordinance. The ordinance protects lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and transgender people from discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodation. If you had been on the city council that night, how would you have voted and why?
I would have absolutely voted for it. I was not on the council then, but I was here that night, and I can appreciate. I mean, there was strong opinions on both sides and people with, their own internal convictions. But I was proud of the decision that the council made at that time, and I certainly would have joined in with them. And again, I agree that, any discrimination on whether it's, race or sex or orientation or actually where I recently worked, based on age, we just shouldn't have those kinds of obstacles for people. So I would support it.
Great, thank you. Andy, you're up.
Mr. Morgan, what's your assessment of affordable housing in Coeur d'Alene, and what do you think city government should do to improve any shortcomings?
I think affordable housing in Coeur d'Alene right now is difficult. I honestly don't have an answer to that question. I think it's something that needs some really smart people to discuss and work out. I don't think it's something that you can answer in a minute or two. This is not a trend. This is not something that's just happening in Coeur d'Alene. This is a trend that's happening nationwide. And as a father of of 3 kids, 2 that are young adults, it's finding housing is difficult. I have a daughter that's actively searching for a home to buy right now. She's gainfully employed, works at Kootenai Medical Center, and is struggling to find a house that she can afford. And it's definitely an issue. I don't know what the answer is. I do believe that there's enough smart minds in Coeur d'Alene that if we sit down and put our heads together, we can find an answer. But we need to start talking about it more. It's just becoming a topic of discussion just lately. So, but we can figure it out.
Mr. English, your turn. What's your assessment of affordable housing in Coeur d'Alene, and what do you think city government should do to improve any shortcomings?
Well, without a doubt, it is a real tension point and pressure point for folks. And it's not just the affordable housing, but even the availability of housing at several different levels. And again, I think some portions of our community are faced with even a bigger challenge with the young who just starting out don't have a lot of resources, or frankly, on the other end, some seniors who don't have a lot of resources. There isn't going to be a simple, easy answer to it, but, one of the things that I know that we are looking at, and I think need to take a harder look, is the whole concept of the accessory dwelling units. I remember my grandma lived in a little cottage next to a house, and, in some places, instead of kind of the NIMBY thing of not in my backyard, they're adopting more of a LIMBY thing, literally in my backyard. And I think that, we need more options like that. But it's a tension point because, how do you provide the parking, and there's pressure on the parking. So, it's more complex than simple.
Ms. Moen, it's your turn. What's your assessment of affordable housing in Coeur d'Alene, and what do you think city government should do to improve any shortcomings?
I love that this is a question that's happening right now. I love that Coeur d'Alene is so desired that people are moving here. I think that this is a situation of we're doing our jobs right. 20 years ago we were trying to figure out how to get people here, and now they're here, and now we're trying to figure out where to put them. And I think there's a lot of great solutions. I think that it's time to kind of, team up with your neighbor a little bit too and start talking to the people around you. It's not necessarily, I think there's things that the city can do, but I think that there's a lot of things that we can do to help each other. I think that even getting to a point to where, back in the day, even with me, you lived with roommates, you made things work. It was a fun way to grow up and get to know who you are with a roommate out of your parents' house. In other situations, I have employees that I love, and it's a challenge for them to find places, because I need them to live and work in a reasonable distance. And so I think it's definitely something that we all need to look into. But I think there's so many solutions, and the trick is to get people who have dealt with this before and have conversations with them and figure out what has worked, and then implement it in Coeur d'Alene. I think that this is something that can be solved, and I think that we're going towards the right direction to get to a good solution.
Great, thank you. All right, Devin.
Okay, Dan, you're first up this round. Please summarize your thoughts on urban renewal as an economic development tool, and share with the audience if you think urban renewal should be used to improve East Sherman Avenue. Why or why not?
I'm well aware of urban renewal from when it first started out and they formed the first district, and at that time actually I was the county clerk and auditor, and basically the way I interpret it is you're making a decision that we're going to put aside some kind of short-term gain for the concept that down the road, with investing in that, doing some improvements, it's going to generate more revenue down the road for everybody. And I think urban renewal here has gone through some phases. They've learned some things. And right now, and I am on the Ignite boards. I've been on there, I think, about a year and a half, so I'm getting to see it from the first-hand level. But, you know, I certainly do believe in it as a tool. I see a lot of good things that it's accomplished. It has limitations, and you have to manage it. In terms of exactly for East Sherman, I think it's a reasonable possibility to look at, but there would be a number of things. The main thing is, with East Sherman is, yeah, we've got to keep some focus on there, and one way or the other, do some things there. So, thanks.
Okay, Lacie, you are next. Please summarize your thoughts on urban renewal as an economic development tool and share with the audience if you think urban renewal should be used to improve East Sherman Avenue. Why or why not?
I think the urban renewal plan has been an incredible asset to Coeur d'Alene. We've got 16 square miles of Coeur d'Alene. That's all we are consisted of right now, and it's very interesting to watch us utilize areas that haven't been used through this process. The growth in Riverstone and the growth in McEwen, which has been amazing. I think that it's, I really do think that it'd be something that would be beneficial to that forgotten land and the top of Sherman. It's been definitely neglected for a very long time, and it'd be nice to see some new jobs put in there. It'd be nice to see some new different ways to live even, and so that we can get that affordable housing in so that everybody can have a place to where we can continue to bring income and revenue to our community, because when we are making money, our kids are taken care of, the safety of our community is improving. When we are making money, it all trickles downhill, and it makes it to where all of us are able to provide our families the life that we want them to have. So yes.
Okay, Tom, same question.
All right.
Please summarize your thoughts on urban renewal as an economic development tool and share with the audience if you think urban renewal should be used to improve East Sherman Avenue. Why or why not?
As a person who lives in the East Sherman area, I can say that no, I do not think that urban renewal should be used in East Sherman. East Sherman is one of the last pockets of affordable housing in Coeur d'Alene, and urban renewal in that area would disrupt that. So I personally think that East Sherman is, it's not as busy as downtown, but it's vital. There's a grocery store that's successful. There's a couple of restaurants that are successful. Long story short, I don't think that urban renewal, and honestly, I don't think that it fits the criteria. Urban renewal is meant to take farmland, or in the case of Riverstone, an old lumber mill, and take that from one type of a use and bring it into the city. East Sherman is already there. It already is existing, and it's doing well. And I do not think that urban renewal should be used to mess with East Sherman in any way. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Andy?
Mr. Morgan, this one's for you. I think everyone here agrees Coeur d'Alene is a good place to live, work, and play. Name one thing you and the rest of the City Council could do to make it even better.
I love Coeur d'Alene. I'm an avid cyclist. I started a nonprofit organization a few years ago that takes donated bikes in, fixes them up, and gives them away to kids in the community that can't afford to have a bike. I would like to see the development of more bike lanes. As the city grows, traffic becomes more and more of an issue. And so I would like to see some alternative, and I hate to use that term, but I'd like to see some different forms of transportation become available The tougher traffic gets, the more I appreciate being able to get out of it. And so yeah, I'd like to see a bus system become stronger. The bus system right now is pretty weak. And again, I'd like to see the opportunity for a cyclist to be able to get to the places that you need to get to on your bike, if that's what you choose. I rode my bike here tonight. I was hoping that the parking lot would be so full of cars that I wouldn't be able to find a place to park. But yeah, I think we need to improve the transportation system.
Mr. English, you're up. Coeur d'Alene's a great place to live. What's one thing you and the rest of the city council could do to make it even better?
In years past, when I grew up, we had swimming lessons and lifeguards and things down at City Beach. And, within the past few years, we made the decision to not have the lifeguards. And that is something that I've had a few people mention, and that's something that I think we maybe ought to take another look at, and I think that's something that would be an improvement and an asset. Part of the issue they had was, they said they couldn't attract the people at the wage that we pay for that, and well, then maybe we need to increase the wage for that, but for the lifeguard. So that's just, that was the first thing popped in my mind, so that's what I'll give you.
Ms. Moen, it's your turn. What are the things that name one thing you and the rest of the city council could do to make Coeur d'Alene even better?
I feel like that's a very easy question. I think we need to, honestly, you guys, what I think that Coeur d'Alene really needs right now is one form of communication. I think that Coeur d'Alene needs an app. I think there's something that needs to have a way for all of us to communicate. The problem with Coeur d'Alene right now is you don't know what's happening in the city every day. It's very hard to figure out what's happening, what events are happening, to figure out what farmers markets are happening, to figure out what nonprofits are doing. I would think it'd be amazing to be able to have one app that you could see everything that's happening, because half the time during the day when you want to go out and do something with your friends, I feel like I miss out on so many different events because I didn't know it was happening till the next day. And these are events that I would love to be able to take my family with, and love to be able to support other small business owners and be able to do these things. But I feel like there's a lack of communication between what's happening and what we want to be doing. And so I think it's time to reconnect so that we can actually be able to participate with all of the amazing things that Coeur d'Alene has to offer. Thank you.
Well, we have something very unusual happening tonight, and that is the candidates are not taking their full allotment of time. I'm not complaining, but I'm going to go ahead and throw out one question because we're a little bit ahead of schedule, and we're going to go in the same order we just went, Tom, then Dan, then Lacie. And that is involving the health corridor. Designating and developing a health corridor, is that something city government should be involved in? Why or why not? Tom, would you go first, please?
I think so. It's the opportunity to create some jobs and possibly some higher paying jobs. One of the disconnects between housing and affordable housing is livable wages, and I feel like the health corridor is an opportunity to bring some jobs into the area that pay better than minimum wage. They pay better than food workers and baristas and stuff. All those things are important, but if we want to start to catch up to the chasm between what people are making and the cost of a home, the cost of rent, the cost of mortgage, we need an opportunity to create some higher paying jobs.
Okay, thank you. Dan?
Yeah, I definitely think that is something that is a appropriate thing to look at, and in fact, there's a study in process right now, and they've laid out some of the plans. Kootenai Health is a anchor tenant and a major important part of our community. And as they've expressed that, they really would like to stay there and build it up even more so. And part of the plan that they've seen, and nothing is finalized yet, but that they're taking a look at, redoing some of the, like Ironwood through there. That's where I worked right at Ironwood and Lakewood, and that, it's terrible traffic problems. I do like that with the study group that's looking at it, so, they've taken some of the input that on the southern portion of the proposed boundaries, is residential area, and they're looking at, okay, kind of hands-off, except actually better bike trails and transportation. So I think it's something that definitely could be an asset to the community, and that'll be one of the kind of important things we'll be looking at in the next several months. So.
Thank you. Lacie?
I think growing the healthy corridor would be beneficial to this area. I think that it also brings a lot of issues with getting there and getting out and being able to get where you need to be quickly. I think that I love the idea of having everything centrally located, but in that creates this bubble where we're all in one area, right? I think it'd be really exciting to be able to kind of think outside of the box in a few ways, I was talking to a few friends, and we thought, why couldn't you take I-90 and have that be an entrance into the healthcare corridor, into Kootenai, as now, so that you have, you get off the freeway, you go right into there, and you get to be able to be where you need to be, and kind of eliminate some of the congestion that that will happen when all of this gets developed. But I do think that with the population that we have and the growth that we have, it's time for us to take care of our citizens, because we love them.
Okay, thank you. All right, audience, do you want more Halloween jokes, or should we get to the closing comments? I thought that's party poopers. Okay. We're going to go, to wrap this up, Lacie, you're going to go first. You have 2 minutes. Then Tom, then you, Dan. So Lacie, you have the floor.
Thank you guys again so much for being here. I hope you know how much it means to me. Putting my hat in this ring has been an eye-opening experience. I've learned a lot already. Mostly what I've learned about is how many people are not involved in city government. And there's 6 people that represent 50,000 people in Coeur d'Alene. Our job is to represent 50,000 people. That's a big job. And I think that the time is to have Coeur d'Alene equally represented. The median age in Coeur d'Alene is 36 years old. There's a huge population that's not being heard from, and I think it's time that they have their voice. The last election that we just had, 50,000 people who could vote didn't. Only 1,300 people voted. 1,300. And the time before that, 3,500 when there was an actual competition. All I would like to tell you is I need your help. I need you to encourage your neighbors. I need you to encourage your friends. I need you to tell the world that to be heard, you have to vote. We can come up here and we can campaign all day long, but at the end of the day, these elections are won and lost in 5 votes. I honestly, I hate to say this, I want you to vote for who you think will best represent our town, because this is not about me. This is not about, running against these 2 gentlemen. This is about running for Coeur d'Alene. And I want to see Coeur d'Alene thrive, and I want to see it grow the right way, and I want to be able to have my daughter be here for many, many years to come and watch her be safe and successful. And so thank you for all that and taking the time to vote and have your voice be heard. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
Great, thank you. Tom?
I got to second Lacey's position on thank you for taking the time. It's a lot of what she said is absolutely true. 50-ish thousand people in the city, and 1,300 people elect mayors, councilmen. That's, to me, that just doesn't sound right. What I do know is that, there are 50,000, 52,000-ish people in the city, and when the city reaches what they talk about, full build out, I've heard numbers 98 to 100,000 people. And if we don't take care and take time and build this thing right, you can't shove a size 20 foot into a size 10 shoe. And we've got to make sure that as we approach those numbers, that we've got infrastructure in place, that we've got a strong economy. You know, I've heard people say, you know, we've got to stop this growth. I don't even know how you do that. You know, property owners have rights. You know, so I think growth is coming. It's just a matter of, are we prepared for it? So I want to be a part of the process. Again, as a person who was born here, and who, quite frankly, has been a little frustrated at times with the growth. I'm concerned that we need to be on the right track, and we need to make sure that when we start approaching those kind of numbers, that we're in a place where we're not in gridlock. So anyway, again, thanks for coming out today. Thank you for being a part of the process, and I'm just asking for your vote November 5th.
Thank you. Dan, you've got the last word.
Okay. Election Day, November 5th, is 4 weeks from this coming Tuesday. However, as an old election guy, I look at Election Day starting when the first mail-in absentee ballots are received and locked in the cans at the county election office. The first absentee ballots are going out tomorrow, so by early next week, or certainly a week from this time, the city election will be officially underway. I'm enthused that there are at least 2 candidates for every race. In fact, I have certain bragging rights that I have more people running for seat 5 than anybody else does. Yeah. Choice is a good thing for the election process and for the voters. As has been highlighted tonight, there are many big issues that will take a range of options to address that are on the radar for our city. I'm sure each of the candidates have some unique strength or attribute that would help them if they became or continued as a council member. However, for some, experience in policy setting, governmental finance and budgeting, and leadership on large public projects would not be something they could bring to the table. Now, all of us were first-time candidates at some time, so there's nothing wrong with deciding to run based on other factors. However, some out there in the community, especially on social media, seem to be taking it as a either-or situation. Either you can bring experience or you can bring brand new, fresh perspective to the mix. Well, I say you can have the best of both. I believe I represent that kind of a choice. I have several years of experience as a local elected official, and I bring a continuous, fresh perspective to all that I do on your behalf. I do a great deal of reading and research on a regular basis. I make a point of listening to the concerns of our local residents in many different forums and venues, and I keep an open mind. I'm Dan English, your current council member. Thank you, too, for showing up tonight.
Dan, Lacie, Tom, thank you very much. Let's give them a hand. That concludes tonight's forum. I do want to thank Jeff Crow, Renata McLeod, Woody McEvers, the whole CdA-TV committee, and most of all, I want to thank all of you who took time out tonight. It's not lost on me that you're missing the Seahawks game, National League Division Series. So thank you all for being here, and I hope to see you all at the polls on November 5th. Good night.